All right, let's do this. It is Saturday evening, 10:30 already. Ah, damn, it never stops. There's always something to do. It never stops. Unbelievable. We are going to cover the miners and take a look at gold and silver. Let's begin with the sector leader, as it has been for quite a while, a couple of years now. Agnico Eagle Mines. Look at it. New historic high this January, up 12.7%. $101. Actually, what am I saying? $191.14. Look at it. Nobody cared when it was in the 41s in late 2023. You see the marginal high low and then the breakout. Look at this little baby bull flag. Oh, I see on a weekly chart, you'd see like what, 8, 9, 10 candles across. And look at where it floors. Teneme. This is why I go on about the Teneme over and over again. Teneme is always a good level where if it's got a floor, and off it goes. The January candle is actually bullish engulfing because we did take out the body of the December candle. 84 RSI, clearly overbought, but hey, there's nothing bearish there, is there? You got to wonder actually, if gold is 7,000, what's this? 300? Probably. Again, short term vulnerable, of course, but yeah, 300 midterm. First one, just 6 silver, 13.5%, on its way to challenge the 2021-23s. Again, relative to silver, this is still grossly lagging. You have a nice, you know, floor and upward turn. Again, you can see these little floor spikes because so every time it sells off, the buyers are still coming in. Bullish. It's going to have to test the 23s, and then in theory, if silver's if silver's 150, this would be what, 50 probably. Again, it's gonna be vulnerable to sporadic cooling, but broadly, it's just broadly going up. Anglo Gold Ashanti, new historic high, up 8.2%. Impressive. Barrick Gold, correction, Barrick Mining. Remember they renamed. They remember the ticker used to be gold, and they stupidly changed it to B. Still think that was a major bad decision. But regardless, CEO also remember the CEO just left one day. We never really found out why. Mystery. But regardless of that, new historic high, 9.8% up. Again, if gold is 7K, this is what, $100? Probably. Floor mining, not my favorite, but again, it's battling upwards, and you can maybe look for the 34s, 35s later this year. And that's almost, that's about 75% up from where it is. DRD gold, most won't care, but yeah, it's cruising up. It's clearly going to take out that high eventually. Again, if gold is 7K, what's this, 50? Endeavor Silver, powering upwards. Still, it's one of those silver miners yet to take out the high from 2011, back when silver was 49. So silver was 49 when it was 13. In theory, this should really be about $20 right now. But hey, you know, so it's offering an opportunity to get in. I mean, it's not as good as buying at 6 or maybe 7. Franco-Nevada royalty miner, new historic high, 10.4. Just solid gains. Clearly on the way to 300 sooner or later. Goldfields. It's a little bit choppy. You see there's the October candle pulled back, buyers piled in. December candle a little bit spiky. The January candle's a little bit spiky as well. The cautious will have a stop at the intra-month low of around 42. So, because if 42 fails, you can think maybe we'll test the November low around 35. But again, long term, gold 7K. What are we looking at? 75, 80 bucks. Little heckler, Neurostrike high. Look at that, 17% up on 70. It's only January, well, January the 9th as of Friday, and we're up 17% on the month in the 22s. It's impressive. It's very impressive. Again, if silver's 150, what are we looking at? 50 bucks. Yeah. Again, you got to be wary of sporadic cooling, and nothing goes up in a straight line. Except right now, Heckler is going up in a straight line. Harmony Gold. Again, much like Goldfields, it's a little bit. We're seeing a few spiky candles here, and the cautious will have a stop around, yeah, that low of 19. Because if it washes out 19, you could easily come down to 17, 16. But again, midterm, if gold is 7K, this should be what? $40? Maybe 50. Kinross Gold, another superb miner. New historic high, 10.9% up on the month so far. Incredible. What a run. $2.81, 31. So it's up over a factor of 10 times. And there's no sign of a top. And we're overbought. But again, we have been overbought across all of last year. In fact, half of 2024. So we've been overbought for a year and a half. Well, aside from that little tiny, tiny little dip there. Again, if gold is 7K, this is a $50 stock in the midterm. Newmont, arguably the best gold miner in the world. Currently up 9.1%. His new historic high, 109s was the high. I think if you assume gold 7K, this is a good chance at 200. Again, just be mindful that we could back test the old 10 MA eventually. We haven't done that in a long while. Pan American Silver, arguably the best silver miner in the world. So currently at 4.7%. Hasn't printed a new historic high yet this month, but it won't take much to do it. Look at that. Look at that November candle. Bullish engulfing. Follow through in December. So it's what, 54s? So if silver's 150, what's this? 100 bucks. Now, whether that's this year or not until next year, I don't know. Nobody knows, right? But I think there's a fair chance of silver 150 later this year. Royal Gold, another royalty miner that nobody cares about particularly. New strike high, on its way to 300. SSR mining, not a fan of this one. I will say though that that is a multi-month bull flag. And yes, that's a black candle, but I would be more emphasis on the structure, which is a bull flag. Not a fan. There are so many better miners than that one though. But still, structure's a bull flag. Wheat and precious metals, new strike high, up 6% on the month, 124s. Again, 200 bucks sooner or later, right? Okay, gold and silver. Actually, before I think, actually, maybe I'll look at the gold silver ratio at the end. Yeah, maybe. We'll see where we'll see. This is unscripted, so I'm making this up as I go along. All right, gold monthly. I don't want to bother with the weekly cycles. Well, maybe I do. um, so we're currently up $185 on the month, 4.3%. I mean, the December candle was a little bit spiky. So look, if we get to the end of the month and we're net lower, that would be a pretty short-term bearish signal offering 4K. But the notion that the notion of shorting this would be clinically insane because we know long term, we know where we're going, right? We know gold's going to go to 5K and then 6 and then 7 and then 10 and 20. Of course, clearly 10 and 20 are probably some years away, but we know the broader direction. So the idea of being short gold or silver, again, clinical insanity. But short term, I'm kind of wondering if we are gonna see this candle cool back, make it become more spiky. But again, can't short it. That would be madness. Look at the RSI. It's like 93, 93, sustainably 93. It's like, again, look at this. Gold has been overbought for 1 year and 9 months. Quite incredible, right? Yeah. So the only issue short term is if we break above. So look, if we break above 45, 49, then yeah, okay, we're gonna go straight to 5K. In the scheme of things, the physical stackers, of course, don't care about any of this. They don't care about this. It doesn't matter. It's just short term moves. But we know 5K is coming. It's a given. It's an easy prediction. Silver currently net higher on the month by $8.74, 12.4%. So the high from December was 83.62. That was an overnight high. We haven't taken that out yet. We've come close, 82.73. And this candle's a little spiky. Now, of course, this is the thing. If the S&P is net higher into February, then it's difficult to see why this would not keep building gains and maybe take out the 83s. And if the 83.62 high is taken out, then we can look for a straight run to 100. And 100 is roughly $20 up and 25%. So there's plenty of there's plenty of upside potential in the short term. I'm a little bit twitchy. I'm not long right now. I mean, look at this. I mean, it can't keep going up forever, right? But there's, there's literally zero sign of a turn of a cyclical high. There's nothing. So the idea of shorting it would be madness. And again, midterm. Look, we know silver's going to be 100. The only issue is it 100 in maybe later this month, or maybe not until February or March, or maybe not until late summer. I don't know. Nobody knows, but we know it's got to get. We know that once it goes past 100, then you're looking at maybe 125, 130, and maybe 150 before year end. I know there's a few people out there now looking for 200 by year end, which is that will not be easy, and it will arguably require you know a lot of things, a weaker dollar, more rate cuts, QE, which of course the Fed are doing. It's going to require at least S&P 8K with a broadly strong, capital market. It's possible, but you know, again, I wouldn't get too fixated on targets. I said this recently, but it's like just as long as you're on the right, as long as you're on the right side of a trade, it's going to be okay. And we know the right side of a trade is on the long side. The only issue is short-term traders got to be careful about being washed out because look, it's 79 for 10 of May. Is 47? You got to wonder if could. I mean, I've seen stories people warning about a a washout, and I'm worried that maybe we'll come back down to 60 or so. But hey, again, can't short it. That would be stupid. All right. I have a couple of weird, quirky things. Bitcoin Gold. I mean, yeah, you could argue we're almost leveling out at 20, but you know, be careful. You gotta be careful with ratio charts. They can tell you some things, but I don't know, gold is outperforming the Dow since well, technically since 20 mid 2018. Interesting. I keep in mind that see that 2011, that was when gold maxed out around 1900. Also, that was when the equity market kind of floored around what was it, S&P 1000 or something? I think. Distant times. Gold with the dollar, of course, I will say on a dollar chart, look at this. What is this? You could draw a bearish pennant on the dollar. And if that's a bearish pennant, then the dollar's going to come down to here later this year, which would be very bullish for a lot of things, including gold, silver, copper, equities, bonds, almost everything. Again, the correlation isn't perfect, but every time the dollar drops is an upward pressure on gold. Most certainly a pressure, but and the other one, of course, the big one is gold silver ratio, which I mean, look, it was 100, now it's 56. Eventually, it's going to come down to 32. You got to wonder when that might be. Is it? I mean, I actually, when I think about it, I think yeah, I think we could certainly see 32 before year end, and that might be again. It doesn't necessarily give you a price target for gold or silver. My target would be maybe silver 150, gold 7K. I don't actually know what the ratio would be on that. What would be 115 to 7K? 20 maybe. Anyway, it's broadly going down because silver's outperforming gold. That won't always be the case, but it's a ratio again, so be cautious in interpreting anything from it. Here's a chart I never really highlight anymore, but I kind of keep it for my own self. Copper, gold, and silver do broadly trade together. See, they're both often copper will outperform, but it's interesting that now silver's silver. Look at all these years, right? Copper has outperformed silver literally since 2006. That's actually quite nice. So we're talking a 20-year chart. Gold and silver have generally underperformed copper for 20 years. And finally, even though copper's going up in this to six, actually technically copper is 584 as of Friday. Look at this. They're actually all intersecting. That's interesting. And we've never seen this before, at least in 20 years. Because people talk about would see people would think, okay, silver and gold have had a pretty good, year and a half, but it's not really until literally now that they're actually starting to potentially outperform copper. I find that interesting. I find that very interesting. Um, hmm. I guess a few people will have an interest in the miners, I guess, in the gold mining ETF of GDX. Um, I mean, look, 7.9% on the month so far, new historic high, zero sign of, look at it, it was 20 bucks. Nobody cared then. Nobody cared at 24. Nobody cared at 33. Again, look at that. That is a breakout candle. I said it at the time, actually. I said you'd have to be a complete maniac to try and short the miners now. Next month, bam. October, new high, but it cooled back. November, powers back up. December up. January up. You got to think GDX is going to be $100 probably soon. And broadly, again, assuming gold is 7K, silver's 150, I could see the miners doubling up. I could see, I could just about see GDX printing. Well, maybe I would accept actually when I think about 200 would be. No, I mean 200 is just about possible. It's possible later this year. Anyway, what chart do I want to end on? Hmm. Don't know. I will say, of course, that cheap oil, and considering inflation, right? Considering the fact that the dollar's lost roughly 35% of its value since 2020, which, you know, oil is cheap. I mean, you could arguably say it's been broadly trading kind of not flat, but I mean, there's some swings here, right? There's some swings, but it's there's no sustainable upward trend. There's certainly no sustainable downward trend. I mean, there's a few, we've gone down for a few years, but this is cheap oil. This is bullish for everything, especially for transportation stocks. And of course, the only sector that's not benefiting from cheap oil are the energy stocks. But I will not have any sleepless nights worrying about Exxon or Chevron EPS or revenue. Brief look at the Widowmaker again. Cheap nat gas. Well, what's not, that's a good thing, right? Who doesn't want cheap nat gas? This is great. I mean, you see it in 2022 we had this little surge from a, that was bad, especially for the UK. But right now we're back to kind of a broad trading. They like bouncing that gas off around 3, and of course 5 is a resistance. All right, is there anything I want to end with? What's the one chart I should end with? You know what? I might even actually go with that. Yeah, I'm gonna leave it. I'm gonna leave you with that, which I think is it merits some reflection. I mean, literally for the first time in 20 years, gold and silver are seriously trying to outperform copper. It doesn't mean copper is down, of course. It just means they're going to be outperforming. I mean, you can look at it different ways, but anyway. Um, yeah. So yeah, I won't get too finicky about the short term, semi-random chaos, but broadly, we know where gold, silver, and the miners are going, right? We know that. There are some easy calls in the market, and there are some really tough calls. This to me is an easy call on a midterm basis. You know, we're talking like 6, 9 months out. On that arrogantly confident note, I wish you a good weekend.